percent of the resources generated in the state of Andhra Pradesh come from Hyderabad. So why is the question of developing Andhra Pradesh without developing say Hyderabad? You take Mumbai for example, 60% of the city lives in slums. We know that it is a failure of the market and also a failure of the government. So what are your prescriptions regarding public goods, provision of infrastructure in cities and mobilizing resources to finance both rural development and urban development? Thank you.
I think this is a very interesting hypothesis that depriving cities of needed infrastructure actually makes things in rural areas worse, and it's entirely possible. I think it's also true. Another thing that was pointed out, remember, was this when we talked about the migration response to city success. Migration response can, in some cases, make the rural area wealthier, right? If you have fewer people using the same amount of land, that's another effect which can complement that. I don't want to. I think we're short on time, so I'm just going to say one last thing, which is I focused a lot on cities and the advantages of agglomeration that occur in markets, but I thank you for emphasizing the role that cities play in non-market interactions, right? The same density that makes it easier for us to buy and sell from each other enables us to interact in lots of different ways. Economists talk about cities as marriage markets, the places where young people come to get married. They're places where we go because it's fun to be in cities, because there are these services that are, where's the service? Because the services are provided in cities, because the same innovation that works well in terms of creating export industries also works well in terms of creating new food and new restaurants. This is all part of the urban excitement. And we go to share public goods, and that's also true. Think about an asset like a museum or a park that isn't fully utilized. That those are things that we can collectively share when we're in a city. But it's fewer people, less sharing of it.
I have actually a very long list, and we might not be able to get through that list. So what I would suggest, if it's okay with you, is perhaps collect in sort of groups of 3 each, and if you could be brief and pointed, I think give everybody a chance to ask their questions. So back there.
My name is Rohit Prasad. I'm at a business school in Gurgaon called Management Development Institute. Thank you for a very, very vigorous and inspiring talk. My question is, while one agrees that the direction for development is increased urbanization, I'm wondering whether one is looking at a number of cities developing simultaneously, or one is looking at a few urban centers becoming bigger. So if one was to take an urban concentration index like the Herfindahl index, would you think that we are moving towards a greater concentration, and should we be moving towards greater concentration?
A question for it on your middle level of governance formation. And it seems to me the FAR example is, as you say, the low-hanging policy fruit. And the big question is how there can be the formation of governance structures that will be responsive to the emerging demands that you've all put on the table. And I think the question to you on the US experience is whether that emerged as a consequence of political dynamics in cities that one could be optimistic will happen in India, or whether there was some historical or exogenous granting of the autonomy to city structures about which there may be substantial resistance here.
My question is kind of related to the earlier one that was asked, which is on the trade-off between densification of existing cities vis-a-vis the new cities. In your opinion, based on the research, has any governments been really successful in engineering new cities, or is it that new cities have come up because of the innovation that you talked about, because of interface between people, and just that the governments have been there just to provide certain services? Because we do hear a lot of talk here about government trying to create, say, 500 more cities. What I'm trying to understand is there at all any thoughts that you may have on policies that the government may follow? Or alternatively, do you think that it's not a great idea for the government to be thinking of formation of new cities when you don't know what really works and how it really stands out?
Why don't you go some more? Three questions.
My name is Sunita Lasapakakar. I'm currently an urban professional with the Water and Sanitation Program. Wanted to thank you very much for an intellectually stimulating presentation. I have two thoughts that I would like your response on. One was, you said there was a positive correlation between cities and levels of skill. I'm wondering if you've looked at the correlation between migration and the success of cities. Also because there's an increasing body of research, I think, that points to cities as incubators of innovation, and a lot of that innovative enterprise comes from migrants and not from people that have been established in cities for a period of time. My second observation was also related to what Abhijit Banerjee was talking about, the more rapid turnaround period of migration to cities, and that is on the nature of urbanization in Indian cities and the depth of the commitment to the urbanization process in Indian cities from its citizens per se. And here I'm referring to the process of urbanization as a way of being, as I think Louis Wirth had looked at it a long time back. And are migrants in Indian cities actually being able to establish a stake and a sense of belonging in the city, or are they just establishing a parasitical relationship with the city where they're looking for short-term economic benefit, but not really becoming long-term stakeholders that allows them to contribute back in terms of enterprise and creativity and that entire process of the smart people coming together and the benefits of agglomeration in the city.
One important reason why prices of houses are high in urban areas is regulation. It seems over-regulation has put the supply down, and that is responsible for high prices. Why do you think government adopts that policy of regulating which keeps the prices high?
I'm Satish Rich. I want to, first of all, of course, compliment you for a very extraordinary presentation. Maybe some of it, those models that you presented, not knowing the entire American concept, I could not understand. Now, you should know in Delhi there are slums, but there are rich people who create like scenic farms. They don't require the government. In India, we, since independence, created 2 new cities, Bhubaneswar and Chandigarh, which are well-planned cities and no more. But every time we talk about Mumbai collapsing or Delhi collapsing because of lack of infrastructure, we talk about making another New Delhi 200 kilometers away. Now you talked about cities great magnets, attracting higher density, growing, attracting talent, growth in skill. All that is all right. But could we have an empirical study about what content of rich, middle class, skilled, and what could be the right density for a area of a city, or it should keep on sprawling around and not have the right mix of people that are required. I say it in the context when we remove slums, we move them 30 kilometers outside the city. But they are the people who provide a lot of support to the rest of the city. Right.
Elsie Jane, much of what has been said is in a way good news, that next 10 years or so, we'll really face the major part of the problem. Question is preparing ourselves, and you find that there is no tower here which